All right, we are. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Welcome. This is so nice to see everybody here. Sorry for the technical difficulties delay. I have a brand new computer. This is the second time that I'm using it for any kind of service, and there are still some technical glitches that I have to work out, including Zoom settings and everything else. So anyway, I appreciate your patience. Excuse me. I want to say a few things about our service before we begin, especially since I know we have some guests here. The first thing is that all of the prayers that we're going to be doing this evening are going to be on the screen in front of you. If, however, you would like to use one of our prayer books, you should see them in the back of your seats. I'll be calling out page numbers throughout the evening. If you have one of the skinnier books that Tamara is holding up, there are two sets of page numbers in there, and we'll be looking at the blue bracketed page numbers in those books. If you have one of the thicker prayer books, they're still dark blue. The red one that you just pulled out is actually a Torah commentary, so there's none of the prayers that we're going to be doing are in there. But there's a thicker blue book that also just has one set of page numbers, so if you would like to use those, you're good. The one benefit that's not going to be on your screen that will be in the prayer books is in some cases the English translation of the prayers. I don't have room on the slides, so I don't put them there typically, but they are in your prayer books if you'd like to kind of read along the English translation while we're singing the Hebrew. The other thing about our service that I'd like to say is as we're going through our service, there are going to be moments where I invite people to please rise or please be seated, and I want to acknowledge that I'm inviting you to rise in either body or spirit as you're comfortable, so I hope everyone feels comfortable with that. And all of the prayers that we're saying, our custom is to join together, whether in Hebrew or in English, singing or reading, so please, as you're comfortable, read and sing along with us. And I hope that our service together this evening brings us a sense of restfulness and peace, which is what Shabbat is supposed to bring. So we are going to begin on page 126. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and to help work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us and to bring that vision to life. We'll continue with these words from the book of Psalms, Hine Matov, how good it is for all of us to be together.
Shebera
we'll continue singing on page 130 the words of Psalm 95 and 96, Lechu Neranana, giving thanks to God for the beauty of creation. Continue welcoming Shabbat as we turn to page 138. We'll join together in singing this medieval poem called Lecha Dodi, which refers to Shabbat as a bride or a queen. If you're looking in the prayer books, we're going to be joining and singing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. And as we reach the final verse, we'll rise and face the entryway. Excuse me. Ya la 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 lecha dodi, ya la 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 likrat kala, ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela, shamor v'zachor merivor echad, continue on page 142 as we join together in singing Shalom Alechem, a poem welcoming the ministering angels, the angels of peace, which help to usher in Shabbat peace for us. Shalom Alechem, Shalom Alechem, Malachei HaSharetz, Malachei Elyon, Mi-Melech, Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi-Melech, Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Alechem, Shalom Alechem, Malachei HaSharetz, Malachei Elyon, Mi-Melech, Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi-Melech, Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Alechem, Shalom Alechem, Malachei HaSharetz, Malachei Elyon, Mi-Melech, Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shuvchem L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi-Melech, Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Alechem, Shalom Alechem, Malachei HaSharetz, Malachei Elyon, Mi-Melech, Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We'll continue lighting our Shabbat candles on page 120. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us, as their brightness reminds us of generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light. These are the trick matches.
I just sent them actually.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, mitzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. We'll continue on page 146 as we rise together for our call to prayer. Please be seated. We'll continue on page 148. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Boreyom malayla, golelor mipnei choshech, golelor mipnei choshech, bechoshech mipnei or. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Boreyom malayla, kolelor mipnei choshech, kolelor mipnei choshech, bechoshech mipnei or. On the bottom of page 150, everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. We'll rise together for Shema on page 152. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto, Leolam malchuto leolam vaed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Please be seated. We'll continue on page 154. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha ve'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha u'v'lechtecha v'derech u'v'shochbecha u'v'kumecha u'kshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'hitem kedoshim le'elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim Lihiot lachem le'Elohim, ani Adonai Elohechem. We'll continue on the bottom of page 157. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea. We'll continue with our prayer for freedom and redemption, Micha Mocha, on page 158. Cleaned off the pollen of my trampoline this afternoon, and it is starting to get to me. Oh. Okay. We will continue, excuse me, on page 160 as we join together singing the words of Hashkivenu, our prayer to ask for God's sheltering presence to be over us this evening and every evening. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom V'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom V'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom V'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. L'chaim. Thank you. I'm not smart enough to remember to do that beforehand. Oh, that's so much better. We will continue together with our tefillah, the centerpiece of our service, on page 164, and we will continue on even-numbered pages, and we'll rise together. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu. Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher chasdei avot ve'imahot, u'mevi geula livnei v'neihem, leman shemo be'ahava. Melech ozer u'moshia u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atarab lehoshia, Mechalkel chayim be'chesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofech olim, Matir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishenei afar. Mi chamocha ba'al gevurot, umido melech memid, umechaye, umatzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman ata lehachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, mechaye hakol. Please be seated. Yana emsacha mekom chanala v'nela manalo emsacha kevodcha malei olam. Yana emsacha mekom chanala v'nela manalo emsacha kevodcha malei olam. Darashti kirvatcha mekol libi hiraticha utzeitzi likratcha likrati metzati yai yai la 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 yai la 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 yai la la ya la 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 yai la 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 yai la la yai la la yai la la. Where might I go to find you, O exalted and hidden one? Yet where would I not go to find you, ever-present eternal one? My heart cries out to you, please draw near to me. The moment I reach out for you, I find you reaching in for me. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. We'll continue on the top of page 173. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. And on the bottom of page 175, you are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otcha levadcha b'yira na'avod. And on page 177, God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lehodot. We'll continue with a prayer for peace. Shalom Rav on page 178. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. bechol hashalom, shalom rav al Yisrael amcha, chasim leolam. Shalom rav al Yisrael amcha, chasim leolam. V'tov be'einecha levarech et samcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Shalom rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. We'll take a moment now for our own quiet thoughts and prayers. Yehiyu leratzon imrei fi vehegyon libi lefanecha. Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri, begoali, begoali. Yehu leratzon imrei fi vehegyon libi lefanecha. Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri, begoali, begoali. We take a minute in our service now to hold in our hearts our family and our friends who are in need of a prayer of healing. As we are about to say our prayer for healing, if there are those on Zoom who would like to type a name of a loved one in the chat, I'll read their names aloud in a moment. And as I look your way in the sanctuary, if there are those you are holding in your hearts at this time who are in need of a prayer of healing and you'd like to share their names, please feel free to say them out loud when I look your way.
Pam and Roger Williams, Julie Benzina,
Pat Adamson, Tem Williams, and Mark Williams, Dick Rankin, Pat Cohen, Joe Thompson, June Moran, Brett Ellen, and for our loved ones who are in need of a prayer of healing, we say, Baruch atah Adonai Rofeh HaCholim. Blessed is God who brings healing to those who are in need of healing. We'll join together on page 371 as we sing Mi Sheberach. Mi Sheberach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi Sheberach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. As I was looking for ideas to talk about this evening, I found one from Alan, I believe his name is Alan Imar, who's a student at the Albert A. List College of Jewish Studies at JTS and the Jewish Theological Seminary. And he talked about this week's Torah portion, which is Parshat Emor, which is from the book of Leviticus. And he brought up a really interesting idea, which he tied to a particular verse from the Torah, which says that God spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the priests, the sons of Aaron, and say to them, none shall defile himself before a dead person among his kin." So what is really kind of interesting about the way Jews typically study the Bible is that we can look at a verse like that and take it in any number of directions. So we have this verse that says that a priest is not supposed to come into any contact with a dead body. So today that would kind of almost seem unheard of. A person who's in a religiously prominent position, especially a leader of a congregation, I have to do, unfortunately, funerals all the time. So to ask the leader of a community, especially one who is in charge of performing a lot of rituals, to refrain from contacting the dead today seems kind of far-fetched, unheard of. But in ancient times, the priests had this particular role where they were not supposed to come in contact with the dead, and specifically in order so that they would maintain their ability to perform other religious functions. If they came into contact with a dead person, they would have to refrain from participating in their religious leadership position until they performed a particular ritual or had this ritual performed on their behalf, which would purify them, and then they would be re-immersed into temple or congregational life. There was a small number of exceptions in the Torah where a priest was only allowed to attend even a funeral if it was from an immediate family member. So we have that idea in the Torah. And I should say, before I go into the rabbinic commentary that Alan cites, that within the Hebrew Bible, within the Torah, there are a number of places that are what I like to call ideologically inconsistent, where the Torah says one thing in one place, the Bible says one thing in one place, and then in another place says almost exactly the opposite. It just so happens that there's not an exact opposite in the Torah for this, but there is an exact opposite in rabbinic literature, and it comes from a collection of rabbinic writings that are called the Talmud. The Talmud is a collection of writings that includes the oldest section, which is called the Mishnah, which was codified around the year 200, but really is a collection of writings that dates from around 250 before the Common Era to about 200 of the Common Era, and then a later series of commentaries which runs from around the year 200 to around the year 600. So this is a really expansive set of rabbinic law, which contains this little story. It's from a tractate called Brachot, which is mostly about blessings. But this is what it says. Come and hear that which Rabbi Elazar, son of Zadok, said. We would skip over coffins, and I should say Rabbi Elazar, son of Zadok, was served as a priest in ancient Israel, that we would skip over coffins to greet the kings of Israel, and they did not say this only with regard to kings of Israel, but even to non-Israelite kings. That if he will merit, he will be able to distinguish between someone who is Jewish and someone who is not Jewish. But the point of this is not to distinguish between someone who is Jewish and not who is Jewish. The point is that this person who is identified as a priest in other places in the Talmud, in order to greet someone who has a prestigious position, that they would willingly jump over graves to do it. And the commentary goes further to say that this is actually related to the idea of treating all people with dignity. So we have a law from the Torah which says no contact with dead people for ritual purity reasons, and we have a law in rabbinic literature that says that you're not only allowed to come in contact with death by walking through a cemetery, but you would gladly do it in order to show respect and to treat somebody with dignity, in particular royalty in this case, but it applies really to anybody who you would want to show respect to. So, excuse me. So why is this important? So with respect to this conversation, with these kind of vastly opposing ideas related to the same rule, there is a third opinion. There is an idea that comes from Maimonides, who says in his work called the Mishnah Torah, that the answer to the question of what do you do when you have conflicting values is to try and essentially find what he considers the middle ground. He says, for the answer to this question, it would do us well to look at Maimonides' Mishnah Torah, wherein he prescribes a middle path, what's called derech benonit, between two extremes. The two extremes, opposite from one another for every trait, are not the right path and are not fitting. For a person to walk by their way, a person should walk in the path of the good ones, and this is the straight path. The straight path is the middle measure in every trait. So what's interesting, I think, about this, and what is really powerful in today's world, is that commentators, politically, religiously, ideologically today, argue that we're more polarized as a society than we've ever really been before, and that Jewish tradition teaches us, on one hand, that argument is super important. Healthy argument, what the rabbis call machloket l'shem shamayim, argument for the sake of heaven, which really means for the sake of the betterment of our community, is an extreme positive. However, when a person tends towards maybe being in their own echo chamber where they're constantly hearing only the things that they want to hear, and they have put themselves on a particular end of a spectrum with respect to either religious tradition or political ideology, Maimonides says that is always the wrong place to be. Always. That's not to say we should compromise our morals or our religious traditions or our practices, but that if we find ourselves so polarly on the end of a particular spectrum, Maimonides argues that there is a better place in every situation to be, and it doesn't matter what side of that argument we're on. That there's always a middle path, and that goes beyond just thinking differently from another human being. Maimonides takes this to an ideological place that includes how we act in our lives in terms of how we express ourselves within our character traits. Maimonides says, and later rabbis who founded what was called the Musar movement, which is a kind of explanation of Jewish ethical living, that every character trait that we possess has a balance point, a middle. We can think of anger is a good example of this a particular character trait. The idea that someone who gets too angry too fast is no good, just like someone who doesn't allow themselves to feel anger or express anger when it's appropriate is also not good. And so we need to, in all aspects of our life, try and figure out what this balance point, what this derech beinonit, what this middle ground is. And if we are able to find that, hopefully we're able to not only create peace within ourselves, to find that point where we feel comfortable with who we are and our ability to feel authentically ourselves and express our ideas in a world that is increasingly polarized, without giving up that sense of integrity, but also finding a place where we can live in community with people who are different than us. So it's with that I hope that we learn this message of the priests that Maimonides brings us from this teaching, and I will wish everyone a Shabbat Shalom. We're going to continue, with Aleinu, and I'll invite everyone to please rise on page 586. Please be seated. There we go. On page 591, may we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace. V'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz mayom hahu yeh Adonai echad ushemo echad. We devote the next few moments of our service to hold in our hearts our loved ones for whom this week and this Shabbat are a yahrzeit or an anniversary of their passing. We remember Stephen A. Lieberman, Helen Barrett, Shirley S. Graham, Rose Meyer, Rebecca Shapiro, Elaine Smith, Ronnie Ellen Small, Gertrude Berman, David Cochran, Art Stamler, Stanley Spellman, Paula Woolman, Max Sander, and we also remember those for whom we are in Shloshim within 30 days of their death, Harvey Deason and Julie Van Dyke. If there are loved ones who you are holding in your hearts in loving memory and would like to share their name for Kaddish on Zoom, please type their name in the chat. I'll read them out loud in a moment. And as I look your way in the sanctuary, if there's someone you're thinking of, please, as I look your way, share their name. We say, Zichronam livracha, may the memory of our loved ones be a blessing. We'll continue on page 598 as we rise together for Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabba, ve'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, Ba'agala ubizman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shemei rabba mevarach le'olam u'lomei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach, yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. Yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, shmei dekedusha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Osei shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. May the one who creates peace in the heavens on high bring peace to us here on earth, to all Israel and all people of the world. And may God send comfort to all those who are mourning. Together we say, Amen. Please be seated. We have a few announcements before we conclude our service. The first is our new member Shabbat, which is our first new member Shabbat that we've had in almost 3 years, is going to be on June 10th. We sent out letters maybe yesterday. I signed all of them yesterday. They should have been in the mail today. So if you are one of the families who have joined within the last, I guess really close to 3 years, you should be receiving your formal invitation in the mail. But it's going to be a very special evening. The choir will be singing, and it'll be new member Shabbat. It's going to be a really very full and beautiful evening. And I think we at least I signed at least 28 letters yesterday, so that's like really good. So we might have a really full sanctuary that evening, which will be lovely. So Also, the annual meeting, our Temple of Israel's annual meeting is going to be this coming Wednesday, May 18th at 7 o'clock. We have to officially elect our new slate of officers for the board. We have a couple of proposed constitutional amendments that need to be voted on, and just to generally hear about the state of the congregation over the last year. There are going to be appetizers before the meeting, beginning at 6:30. The meeting starts at 7. If, excuse me, you have not yet sent in your proxy to Kitty, if you're not going to be able to be here, please send that in as soon as you can. I know there was a deadline of May 6th, but things happen. So if you can get that in, that would be awesome. You can see her email address here. It's office@templeofisrael.org. If you have any questions, this will be a hybrid meeting. So this means if you can't be there on Zoom or in person, send in your proxy. We have a event which I believe is sponsored by PJ Library. For some reason, PJ Library's logo did not show up on this flyer, but it's June 4th, which is Shavuot. We're going to be celebrating Shavuot, the festival of receiving the Torah, which traditionally at some point became a holiday where you're supposed to consume dairy food. So what better way to celebrate than going to the Happy Cow Creamery? You can find more information and how to RSVP for this event or to buy tickets. The tickets are $5 per person. Excuse me, in our e-news or on the Temple website. And that's on, again, June 4th from 1:30 to 4:30 at the Happy Cow Creamery. And then there's going to be another event co-hosted by Greenville Jewish Federation and PJ Library at the Community Tap in Greenville on May 22nd from 2 to 4. This is a social event there'll be beer and wine and for the grown-ups and soda and ice cream for the kids. I think the main objective of this gathering, though, is to learn about the Southern NCSY's Holocaust Memorial Project. There is a project called the Butterfly Project, which is a Holocaust memorial project where people will create butterflies that will be part of a permanent installation at the Children's Museum of the Upstate, and it will serve as a Holocaust memorial in Greenville, which is very cool. And it involves a lot of partnerships. The Greenville Public Schools has participated in the Butterfly Project and a number of other organizations as well. So this will be an opportunity. If you haven't made a butterfly, you can learn about the project, and I think that it will be an option to make one while we're there. And that is what I have. So we're going to join together in Kiddush, and I have a few, although they kind of, one of the cups leaked, so maybe I'm not going to invite people up right now. This cup had a hole in it because the juice is all over the plate. Okay.
They have a time limit, those cups.
I can still invite any of the kids who want to come up. We just will maybe get juice after the service so that you don't get it all over yourselves. Anyone who has not yet become bar or bat mitzvah and wants to join me up here, come on. Come on. Come stand over here.
Go stand near the fire.
Yes. Yes, go stand near the fire. Go stand next to the challah. That's what... All right. We're going to say Kiddush first. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen l'chaim. There is plenty of juice, and you can all have some, but those cups are covered in grape juice. Okay. And for our children, we have these words of blessing for our children who are up here and for the children who are at home and who we are holding in our hearts. We say, Yesimech Elohim Kisara Rivka Rachel v'Leah. May you be blessed like the mothers of our people, like Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. Yesimcha Elohim ke Ephraim uvechi Menashe. May you be blessed like Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Menashe. We wish for all of our children the blessings of finding and being proud of who you are and always striving to be the best version of yourselves. With these words from the Torah. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. May God's light shine on you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's presence always feel close to you, and may you always be blessed with the most important gifts of wholeness and peace. Amen. Amen. And we have a beautiful challah here, and if y'all want to help me hold it. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. You can take it from the middle, it just might not come out. Take it from the middle. Bring some to your family. Okay. All right. We are going to conclude our service with a prayer for peace, Oseh Shalom, and then I'll unmute people on Zoom. And we can go into the social hall next door for an oneg. That's going to be too high. Oseh Shalom bimromam, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Oseh Shalom bimromam, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Oseh Shalom bimromam, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Oseh Shalom bimromam, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's so good to see you all. We'll join together in the social hall for some goodies. And on Zoom, Shabbat Shalom to everybody. And thank you, yes, to our oneg hosts, the Stones and the Thompsons. We are very appreciative of y'all. Come on. There we go.
You okay?
I'm fine. I'm struggling with my allergies. How do I unmute you on this new device? There we go.
Yeah.
Now it's froze.
Oh my God, no.
But I can hear you.
Oh heavens, no.
Laura. Hi, David.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Good.
Hello, Donna and
Well,
Dave and Laura.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, Joe.
I'm so sorry you sound terrible.
Oh, but I sound so much better.
Oh my goodness. Well, I hope the antibiotic works
Yeah.
and the cough syrup.
Actually, ate food today. Woo.
Hi, Joe. Sorry I missed you.
Oh, and you, sweetheart.
Take care.
Donna, Joe, they're sick.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
I love you. I'm not going to say anything else.
Gonna
Good
go
night.
eat my dinner now.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Good to see you.